All right, we've been talking a lot about tech, and for good reason. It has been the main market driver on the day. It's been the main market driver really all year long. A big focus on AI giants like Nvidia and Microsoft, and we're now learning that they're battling a new lawsuit. The two companies are accused of patent theft and violating U.S. antitrust law by a Texas-based company called Xockets. We did reach out to both Microsoft and to Nvidia, and both companies did decline to comment. We have with us right now Robert Cote. He's a lead investor and a board member of Xockets. He's also the CEO of Cote Capital, and for years has been one of the top intellectual property lawyers in the tech space for decades. Great to have you here on the set, Robert.
Thank you.
Let's start off with this and kind of break this down in layman's terms.
Sure.
What the main allegations are against Nvidia and Microsoft.
Twofold. One is patent infringement, one is antitrust violations. So Xockets developed a new chip in the cloud. It's called the data processing unit. The architecture behind that allows you to take all the data work that you need to do when you train a model. Distributed computing means many computers working on the same job. In fact, thousands of them to train an AI model. To get the speeds to a point where it doesn't take years, but it takes weeks or months, you need this data processing unit. You have to change its architecture. Computers usually go to memory, and when you go to memory, you're too slow. Packets are moving at billions of packets a second in the network, so you need a new architecture and a new processor. Xockets developed that. The industry copied it. It took years for it to make its way into the cloud. You know, new innovations takes time for people to change. We made an attempt, because litigation is not something that anybody should ever do lightly. We went and spent a year developing the record on the infringement, validity of these patents, and damages. We have a market rate in a license agreement. We looked at what the value was, somewhere on the order of $40,000 a server, and there are millions of these servers. And so essentially we did that work. We took it to an investment bank. We made an attempt over the past several months to sell. And so our antitrust violations is the other aspect of this. We made every effort to avoid litigation, and we wound up in the sales process being boycotted. Not one of the large clouds or large chip makers, not two of them, not some of them, all of them. And then RPX, which is a company that is was backed by big tech, and they pay subscription dues. I showed up at our front door to negotiate on their behalf. If you read their website, they attempt to act on behalf of the cartel. They call it their clients. It's a euphemism. On behalf of the cartel to buy at wholesale and instead of retail, meaning fair market value. And the problem with that is that's against their interests. They're competitors of one another. They should be competing for access to rights that are critical to AI.
I'm sure you're aware of some investigations that we now know are taking place here in the U.S. In the AI space and the chip space with regards to potential antitrust concerns. This is based on Bloomberg reporting. Are you involved in that in any way?
I am not. It's related to what we're talking about here, right? Those are allegations around tying the components, the CPU, the GPU, and the DPU into a package that I, as Nvidia, are the only supplier of those components, so no competitor in the chip industry or otherwise can get access into that system. There is technology, they would argue, is the advantage that allows them to tie all those components together and exclude competition. And because they partnered with Microsoft as part of this copying of the Xockets technology 5 years ago, both Nvidia and Microsoft are way ahead of everyone else. And Microsoft has monopoly power in using those Nvidia servers to train AI models. They have an exclusive with OpenAI that gives them access to some of the most valuable AI training models in the world. And so they sit in the catbird seat, very much in a position of holding the reins of power. And we have to be very careful when we allow big tech companies to hold the reins of power. And we see the problem with Xockets. They're denying IP owners that are critical ingredients into that system compensation. In fact, they're not even talking to an IP owner.
So you say that you tried very hard to avoid litigation. I assume that means that you've tried to talk with them about some kind of payment. Are those talks still ongoing, or have those ended?
So we ran an investment banking process to try to sell exclusive rights, either the whole portfolio the company owns of critical technology behind that DPU, that enabling component in their AI system. We did that over, I would say, from March until about last month. And we reached out to both Microsoft and Nvidia multiple times by email, heads of legal, heads of corporate development, and we were rebuffed. We didn't even get an answer. And so there was no good faith effort on their part. I can tell you when I started in the business 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you wrote to somebody and you had a serious claim that they were using your IP. They didn't ignore you. They actually did their homework. They entered into good faith negotiations over compensation for use of those rights. Today we have a thing called predatory infringement. It's a playbook where David is blown off because 99% of Davids can't afford the multi-million price tag to bring a lawsuit, and the 1% that can are in a war of attrition. So we happen to sit in a very special position as a company, but if they can do it to somebody like Xockets that's done something so critical to enable AI and deny them any competition, imagine what's happening to the rest of the innovators that are the kind of the bedrock of the American dream.
I hear you about the David versus Goliath. I mean, one can make the argument that the tech industry got to where it is with people not necessarily stealing each other's ideas, but copying each other's best ideas and, like, you know, putting a twist on it and making it their own. How is this different? Why is this predatory infringement and off a playbook versus just another example of that tradition of innovating off of each other?
So the Constitution protects for the people from around the world. It's the way we built the empire in the first place. Exclusive rights so that investors will invest in David, knowing that David will get compensated if his IP is used. Otherwise, he won't invest. And the whole innovation economy that built this country is irreparably harmed. And we have a real problem with that. China is outpacing the U.S. in many different technology domains as a consequence of that. But to answer your question maybe more specifically, what you have to realize is copying is illegal, right? But when you publish your patents, you're sharing with the world so that the world can innovate on top, to your point, and progress humanity, progress technology, progress society. But it doesn't mean that the IP owner whose IP is a critical ingredient in the cake that you're making should be denied any compensation.
You are certainly going to get pushback on this. I'm not just talking from the big tech giants, but we went through this kind of process before the last big tech cycle. And you had a lot of folks come out with these patents saying, we owned this before Apple did this, or Microsoft, et cetera. They were derided as patent trolls, and some of them really were trolls.
Correct.
Why is Xockets different?
So what happens is a system, a legal system, becomes out of balance. And so this case isn't just about Xockets, it's about bringing back balance to our innovation economy and to our legal system, because it's not just the patent trolls, it's the good guys too. Every innovator is being boycotted, and that's where we run afoul of the law, right? And that's what I'm here to stop, break up that cartel and make sure we bring back balance to a system that's become way out of balance.
All right, Robert, we're going to have to leave it there. Obviously, this is a very complicated subject. We want to talk to you again about this. We should point out, of course, that we did reach out to both Nvidia and Microsoft for comment on this, and they declined to comment. Of course, we will welcome this on the show anytime to respond to the lawsuit. Robert Cote, he is the lead investor and a board member of Xockets.